In the spring of 1942, the war in the Pacific hung by a thread. The U.S. fleet was crippled, and a victorious Japanese Navy was poised to strike again. Deep in a windowless, vault-like basement of the Pearl Harbor Administration Building, a room so secret most officers on the base didn't know it existed, a group of men and women fought a war of minds. This was Station HYPO, the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet code-breaking unit. Their base was not made of steel or concrete, but of paper, intuition, and relentless logic. Their enemy was the JN-25 code, the primary encryption used by the Imperial Japanese Navy. The code was a labyrinth of over 45,000 five-digit numbers, each representing a word or phrase, further scrambled by complex ciphers. Breaking it manually was like assembling a billion-piece puzzle in the dark. The commander of HYPO, Lieutenant Commander Joseph Rochefort, was a brilliant, eccentric officer who worked in a red smoking jacket and carpet slippers, often for 20 hours at a time, surrounded by a team of cryptanalysts, linguists, and radio traffic analysts. Their intel came from an invisible web. Radio intercept stations across the Pacific, from Hawaii to the Philippines, captured every Japanese naval transmission they could. The raw, encrypted messages were rushed to HYPO's basement. There, the team would cover the walls with sheets of paper, plotting the movements of Japanese call signs. They weren't reading the messages yet, but by tracking who was talking to whom, and from where, they could begin to map the Imperial Navy's organization and movements. Rochefort's key insight was to treat it like a giant crossword puzzle. His team would work on recovering the codebook, figuring out which number equaled which word. They used everything: weather reports, which had predictable words, mistakes by lazy Japanese radio operators, and captured documents. Each tiny breakthrough confirming that a certain number sequence meant Midway or invasion force was a victory. By April 1942, the puzzle was pointing to a major Japanese offensive. The intercepts were filled with references to an objective codenamed AF. Navy intelligence in Washington believed AF was the Aleutian Islands, or possibly Hawaii again. But Rochefort and his team at HYPO were convinced AF was Midway Atoll. To prove it, they devised a ruse. They instructed the American base at Midway to send a fake, unencrypted radio message complaining about a water distillation plant breakdown. 2 days later, a Japanese intercept was decoded: AF is short of water. The trap was sprung. HYPO had not only broken a code, they had conversed with the enemy and won. The intelligence from HYPO's basement allowed Admiral Nimitz to do the impossible: position his tiny, outnumbered carrier fleet to ambush the mighty Japanese fleet at Midway. The resulting victory in June 1942 was the turning point of the Pacific War. After Midway, the work continued in even greater secrecy. HYPO's successor units would go on to help shoot down Admiral Yamamoto's plane and unravel Japanese plans across the ocean. But the base itself left no monument. It was a room of desks, file cabinets, and ashtrays. Its weapons were pencils and filing cards. Its soldiers were academics, chess champions, and linguists. Station HYPO proved that the most powerful base in the modern world could be a room where people think. It shifted the balance of power, not with tons of bombs, but with ounces of intellect. In doing so, it laid the foundation for a new kind of warfare, where the first and most critical battles are fought in silence, over lines of encrypted text in a basement at the edge of a wounded harbor.